Once we've done our joint play testing, then we are ready to mobilize. And in first instance, we would like to mobilize extension, which means we're going to glide the scaphoid in a palmar direction because it's convex in relation to the concave radius. And we will be then needing to glide the trapezoid, which is concave in relation to the radius, relatively dorsal. You'll see by our technique that we use the same technique for every mobilization. It's just going to be that we're going to pick the relative joint partner that we will be guiding in a volar direction. So let me show it to you this way. So first of all, we want to position the forearm in a slight incline. We can do that by folding a towel or using a wedge that maybe has a towel on it for a little bit of cushion. Okay, make that pretty. Good, okay. So basically what I'm going to do with these techniques is the same hand that stabilizes is my mobilizing hand. The thumb of my other hand is going to create the support surface from which I will be pushing. In this instance, as I said, we're going to stabilize the radius. We're going to place the thumb on the scaphoid. We leave the hand in the resting position, and I'm going to get my body over the joint that we're mobilizing, and I simply am going to exert pressure and then give a little bit of overpressure. Okay? It can be a very, very gentle technique. So let me show you now on the skeleton. I'll place the skeleton, stabilize the radius, place my thumb on the scaphoid, position the hand in the resting position. My thenar of my stabilizing hand is placed on my thumb. I lean over those joint surfaces, exert pressure, take up the soft tissue slack, and then give a little bit of overpressure. These are small joints, and what we know is in hypomobile joint, very often one of the limiting factors are fatty bridges that grow within the incongruencies of the joint surfaces. So this is a perfect technique for that. Now, I'm going to use the skeleton one more time to show you that when we want to mobilize the trapezoid in relation to the scaphoid, we're moving the concave surface. That's one thing. So to use the same technique, we'll be stabilizing the trapezoid and actually pushing the scaphoid in a volar or palmar direction. The other thing to make note of is that the trapezoid sits obliquely on the scaphoid. So we'll be setting up the technique so that the hand is resting a little bit obliquely on the edge of a sandbag or towel, and then I'm going to come in, stabilize from distal, and now place my hand on the scaphoid, thenar on my thumb, index finger is always free, and then I'll lean in to take up the soft tissue slack and give overpressure. Okay, now let me show you that on a human. All right, so again, trapezoid, I'm going to stabilize that from the other side. I'm going to rest the hand obliquely on the towel. Scaphoid and radius are resting, just kind of hanging. And I'm going to put my thumb on the scaphoid, stabilize trapezoid from palmar, lean in at the joint surface, and then just give overpressure. Good. So that is the mobilization for the scaphoid on radius and the trapezoid on the scaphoid. Now, we can do a little bit of local neuromuscular reeducation that usually feels really good to the patient. And what we're going to do is we'll again hold the forearm, place thumb on scaphoid, and now I'm going to follow a pattern of extension, ulnar deviation, and a little bit of pronation. That's how that scaphoid moves. The proximal row moves three-dimensionally in relation to the radius during wrist extension. And what I do is I'll give a little bit of volar pressure as I'm guiding the rest of the wrist in this three-dimensional motion. Sometimes I'll even use this as a local mobilization, and to restore full range and get the patient accompanied, used to doing this too, I'll ask her to accompany the motion. So I'll say, help me gently, help me gently, help me gently. And then at the end, I'll say, hold there, don't let me push you down. Okay, pull down slightly, and now relax. So what we're doing is we're teaching the joint that it can actually make that range again. For the trapezoid scaphoid, here I can actually lift the trapezoid in relation to the scaphoid. I'm going to stabilize both bone structures from each side. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold the scaphoid and I'm going to bring the trapezoid up in this, it's kind of like a curved arc. So not pure up and down, but a curved arc that mimics that dart thrower's motion. So I'm going to bring it up and down, and the up is accompanied by a extension, radial deviation, supination, and a flexion, ulnar deviation, pronation. That beautiful three-dimensional motion. Here too, I can do a local mobilization. If you prefer not to do that little manipulation maneuver, is also very, very helpful. And I can retrain the full movement pattern by asking my patient to help me. So here we go, full range. Good. She helps, and then at the end, I'll say, hold there, don't let me push down. Now we're loading the joint. Good. And then push down towards the floor. Good. And then back up one more time. Final load of the joint, and relax. And that's going to train in that newly gained motion. To mobilize the